The air was thick with the acrid scent of sweat and anticipation as I stood at the edge of the dense, ancient forest. The tales of a hidden tomb, filled with untold riches, had lured me to this remote corner of the world. The thick canopy above cast eerie shadows, and the setting sun's dying embers painted the sky in shades of blood red and charcoal gray. I had been searching for weeks, following a cryptic map passed down through generations of treasure hunters. The map led me to this very spot, an unassuming clearing deep within the woods. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized I might finally be on the cusp of a discovery that would change my life forever. With a heavy backpack slung over my shoulder, I began to dig into the dirt. The first few shovelfuls were grueling, but my excitement spurred me on. As I dug deeper, I could feel the earth giving way to something solid beneath. Sweat poured down my brow, mixing with the dirt, but I didn't care. I was determined to unearth the treasure that lay hidden beneath. After hours of relentless digging, I hit something hard. The sound of metal on stone sent shivers down my spine. I dropped to my knees and carefully brushed away the dirt to reveal a rusty, iron door, half buried and covered in strange, indecipherable symbols. The tomb had been sealed for centuries, and I was the first to lay eyes on it in a very long time. My excitement turned into a deep, gnawing fear as I realized that I stood on the threshold of something truly ancient and powerful. Ignoring the trepidation that welled up within me, I pulled open the heavy door, revealing a dark passageway that seemed to descend into the very bowels of the earth. The air inside was thick with the stench of decay, and I cautiously entered, my flashlight cutting through the oppressive darkness. The walls of the tomb were adorned with murals depicting scenes of death, sacrifice, and the worship of a sinister, horned deity. The images seemed to writhe and shift as if they were alive, and I felt their malevolent gaze following my every move. As I ventured deeper into the tomb, I came across a chamber filled with countless relics and artifacts, each one more macabre than the last. Golden idols with empty eye sockets, jeweled daggers encrusted with dried blood, and ornate masks that seemed to leer at me from the shadows. The deeper I went, the more disturbing the items became, and a growing sense of unease settled over me. The air grew colder, and the walls seemed to close in around me. The only sound was the echoing drip of water, creating a disconcerting, rhythmic pattern that reverberated through the tomb. I couldn't help but feel like an intruder, an unwelcome presence in this place of forgotten horrors. My flashlight flickered, and I was plunged into darkness. Panic surged through me as I fumbled for spare batteries, my hands trembling. When the light returned, I saw that the artifacts had shifted. The idols now faced me, their eye sockets empty, and the masks seemed to sneer even more malevolently. I could almost hear whispered voices, soft and sinister, like a chorus of the damned. I continued deeper, the passageways growing narrower and more claustrophobic. The walls seemed to pulse and breathe, and I began to doubt my own sanity. I could feel the tomb's malevolent presence, a weight on my chest, like a sinister hand that reached out from the shadows, threatening to drag me into the abyss. Finally, I reached a large, circular chamber. In the center, an ancient sarcophagus lay surrounded by flickering torches that cast eerie, dancing shadows. The lid was adorned with elaborate carvings, depicting gruesome scenes of death and rebirth. I approached the sarcophagus with a mixture of dread and fascination, my breaths coming quick and shallow. As I reached out to touch the lid, a ghostly figure materialized before me, its face contorted in agony. Its hollow eyes bore into my soul, and it raised a skeletal hand, pointing towards the sarcophagus. A blood-curdling scream filled the chamber, emanating from the walls themselves, and the ghostly figure dissolved into darkness. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the sarcophagus. My trembling hands, seemingly of their own accord, pushed the lid aside. The air grew frigid as the lid scraped against the stone, revealing a mummified figure, its skeletal remains wrapped in tattered, ancient cloth. But what lay beneath was not a treasure. Instead, it was a grotesque, pulsating mass of darkness that seemed to defy all laws of nature. The abomination within the sarcophagus stirred, and tendrils of shadow reached out, wrapping around me, suffocating me. I screamed, but the sound was lost in the echoing chamber. The tomb had claimed me as its own, and I was lost to the world forever. In the darkness, I could no longer distinguish between the tomb's malevolent presence and my own consciousness. I was trapped in a nightmarish realm where time had no meaning, and reality itself was a shifting, twisted labyrinth. For what felt like an eternity, I wandered through the tomb's nightmarish passages, encountering apparitions that whispered incomprehensible secrets and visions of unspeakable horror. My body withered, my mind fragmented, and I lost all sense of self. The sinister force that permeated the tomb seemed to feed on my fear, growing stronger with each passing moment. In my tormented wanderings, I stumbled upon a chamber unlike any I had seen before. The walls were covered in intricate hieroglyphs and strange, cosmic symbols. In the center of the room lay an ornate pedestal, upon which rested a cursed amulet. It pulsed with an otherworldly energy, its dark aura captivating and repulsive in equal measure. The amulet whispered to me in a language I couldn't comprehend, but its message was clear: power beyond imagination, knowledge beyond reason. The temptation to take it, to possess such power, was overwhelming. I reached out, my fingers trembling as they brushed against the cool surface of the amulet. A sudden, searing pain coursed through me, and I screamed as the amulet's malevolence invaded my very being. It was as if the tomb itself had taken root in my soul, twisting and warping me into something no longer human. My vision fractured, and the chamber melted away, replaced by a nightmarish dreamscape. In this surreal realm, I was tormented by nightmarish visions. I saw the history of the tomb, a horrifying chronicle of death, suffering, and the worship of a monstrous deity that feasted on the souls of the unfortunate. The amulet I had touched was the key to its power, the catalyst for the tomb's dark awakening. My own fate was woven into these visions. I saw myself as a prisoner of the tomb, my soul trapped within the amulet, eternally bound to this cursed place. I was destined to lure other treasure hunters, like myself, into the tomb's grasp, feeding it with their fear and despair. But as I watched my own torment unfold, a small ember of my former self remained. Deep within the nightmarish labyrinth of my mind, I yearned for freedom, to escape the tomb's relentless grip. With each passing moment, my determination grew, and I began to resist the tomb's influence. Slowly, I gathered the shattered fragments of my mind, piecing them together like a broken puzzle. I focused on the memories of who I once was, the life I had left behind, and the loved ones I had lost. It was a painful process, as if tearing myself away from the very fabric of the tomb's existence. With a surge of willpower, I shattered the amulet's hold on me. The visions of the tomb receded, and I found myself back in the chamber, the cursed artifact now lying shattered on the ground. The malevolent presence had weakened, and I could sense that the tomb itself was in agony, wounded by my defiance. I stumbled through the tomb's passages, guided by a dim light of hope and determination. The malevolent apparitions that had haunted me before now recoiled in fear, their whispers reduced to feeble, distant murmurs. As I neared the entrance, the walls seemed to tremble, as if the tomb itself was in its death throes. Finally, I emerged into the fading light of the forest, gasping for air. The tomb's darkness clung to me, a permanent scar on my soul, but I was free. The treasure I had sought was gone, replaced by the knowledge of the tomb's true nature, a prison of eternal suffering. As I made my way back to civilization, I realized that the true treasure I had found was the knowledge that some secrets should never be unearthed. The malevolent force that had lurked in the tomb's depths was an ancient evil, best left undisturbed. The amulet, shattered and powerless, now lay buried deep within the tomb, where it could do no more harm. I carry the weight of that dreadful experience with me, a reminder of the horrors that lurk in the shadows of our world. I am forever changed, haunted by the knowledge that the tomb's malevolence still stirs in the darkness, waiting for another unwitting soul to stumble upon its accursed path. And so, dear reader, heed my warning. The pursuit of treasure can lead one down a path of darkness and despair, where the cost of discovery may be the very essence of your soul. Some secrets should remain buried, for in their depths lies a darkness beyond imagining, a darkness that hungers for the souls of the unwary.